You had a great first date. She laughed, you vibed, she might have even texted you later. But now she's pulling away. Less warmth, fewer replies, and you're wondering, well, what happened? I thought it went well. So let's get into why this happens and how to stop it from repeating. And so I want you to know that you are not crazy. She really did seem into you, but here is what most men miss. Women don't just respond to how the date felt, they respond to how safe and grounded you stay afterwards. And so if you leave the date and you start overthinking, you start overanalyzing, you start chasing or filtering your truth, your authentic self, that shift she is going to feel. I had a gentleman reach out to me recently, and one of his issues was that he felt like he kept on going on dates. And by the way, this man has a very positive mindset, because usually when I speak to men around 40 to 45, it's like they've given up on women or they have a negative opinion about women, but they're just fed up. You know, they're just over it kind of thing, kind of vibe. That's what at least I get. And those are the kind of men that come to me, at least. So even though he was super positive, he was just frustrated, and it's totally valid to feel frustrated, to feel like you're putting in all the effort, you really are showing up, you're doing all the right things, but you're like, oh, why is this so difficult? Why is nothing working out? And so what led to his frustration was that recently he went on a date and he really thought that the date went really well, which he has in the past. And again, as a coach, this is what I like to notice is your patterns. Where is this coming from, and what are the conversations happening on your date? Because a lot of the times men, they don't really, unfortunately, I mean, it's probably good, it's a good and a bad thing, they don't really think like how a woman thinks. If it's a first date, not every woman is going to tell you exactly what went wrong with it. So this is where it's important to really ask for guidance or support if you feel like you're unsure. I don't think anybody wants to waste our time, which for me is like the biggest thing. My time is currency. Time, your money, your heart. You literally are putting your heart down on the line. I mean, unless you're a closed off man, that's a whole different story, and you're doing something else over there. But if you really are genuine and you're really looking for love, it is heartbreaking to keep on going on dates and falling short, or feeling like you're falling short even though you're doing everything right. And by the way, before I get into what we kind of got into, I also want to mention, and this is what I learned being a matchmaker, because as a matchmaker, what I would do is I would set up a man and a woman, after knowing their backgrounds and what are their values and standards, which is it was a fun job to have. And so once I did that, they would go on a date, and then I would kind of do a debrief of the date with the woman and the man, which is where I got so much knowledge and wisdom, because I learned when a man thought that his behavior was okay, the woman didn't. And a lot of the cues that she was giving, he was not really paying attention to. And I know a lot of men get frustrated with, I don't want to keep reading a woman. I really want her to come and tell me. And I get that. But the first couple of dates, that is where most of the time, if she is finding something out or she's realizing something about you, she's most probably not going to come and tell you about it. And the reason is because she's probably too embarrassed. Maybe she's shy. Maybe she's scared that you might flip out, because it's happened to me personally. There was a time that I said I wasn't interested, and that guy got really, really angry. And he got abusive. And so this is where, as a woman, I also understand their perspective and where they come from. They're really just trying to protect themselves. But there are women out there that sometimes will be honest with you, and they'll say, you know what, I'm just not attracted to you. I'm not feeling it, or whatever it is, right? And the biggest thing that I learned being a matchmaker is that there are 3 sides to the story. There is his side, there is her side, and there is the truth. Right? So when I speak to a client of mine, I'm honest with myself, because I know that there's probably things, I wish I was a fly on the wall. That would be great. I would get more information that way. But I'm seeing things from his angle, from his perspective. And so sometimes it's difficult to get the full picture. And so before we even get to the date, I like to know a couple of things. The first one is, Where did you guys meet? What sort of questions were you asking? And also, how long did you speak to her on the phone? I always recommend before you get on the date to have a phone call and not to do FaceTime, because what happens is when you do FaceTime, you're trying to look good, she's trying to look good, and you're barely listening to what she's saying because you're probably like, oh, she's so beautiful. I mean, let's just say, for example, you're really into her, she's super sexy or whatever it is. And so sometimes men, they're not really listening, because she's so beautiful. She could say whatever the hell she wants. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great, So I really want you to first have a phone call. He mentioned that he met her on a dating app and there was no FaceTime or phone call. That was straight away on this dinner date in a very expensive restaurant. Okay, so again, I personally wouldn't recommend that, especially if you're meeting a woman on a dating app, because you barely know who this woman is. And secondly, I at least do not believe that you need to have a huge extravagant date on a first date. There's no need for that, because you need to really make sure this is the person you want to go on a date with. And I actually think it is important to meet at a coffee shop or somewhere that is casual, because I think seeing a woman in just casual clothes and not super dressy, I think you really can tell a lot about her. So I actually would highly recommend that you meet up at a coffee place, or, walk at the beach or whatever, a picnic, whatever it is, something that is casual. I personally would recommend an hour to 2 hours on the date. Do not spend 8-9 hours on the date on the phone call. And I know things happen sometimes and, it is what it is. But a lot of the times when you speak to somebody for that long, I feel like the conversation doesn't hold value, because you're just rambling, you're talking, and it's like, there's no, you're not really most of the time probably paying attention to what they're saying. Like 8 hours? I don't think so. I mean, I can barely pay attention. For like 10 minutes. I need someone to give me a coffee. So back to my client, he didn't have any call before. It was straight up, the dinner date. And second thing that he did was right after the date, because he really was, I feel like he did say it, he was a bit infatuated, I really hope I'm saying that right, with her. And I feel like whenever you do that, you're putting her up on a pedestal and then you're just down over here. And so you need to always try to match up with her, and you're going to do anything for her, that kind of energy. So again, that is where that desperate energy, the lack of, self-confidence, self-worth in you comes up. And again, not to say that you have to be cocky and you're like, I'm better than her, I'm equal than her. It has nothing to do with that. It really is just about knowing that, yeah, she might be gorgeous, she might be beautiful, but again, you don't really know her that well. You don't know her background. You don't know her history. You don't know how she's able to handle situations, that are difficult in life, or how is she going to treat you when you get sick. You don't know those answers, because she could be the most beautiful woman, but if she's gonna, leave you and go to the next, but that beauty, that ass, none of that matters. I don't know how many more times I have to say the same shit. The second thing that he did was that after this date, as he got infatuated, he then started overanalyzing the date. He started overthinking, because she didn't message for 2 hours. Oh my God, I didn't get a message. What did I do? Am I not good enough? You have all of these thoughts that come up. And another thing that he did was he kept on picturing their future. What's going to happen 10 years down the line? And I think that having a vision, having goals, those things are great, but you can't be doing that when you just met somebody for the first time. When you're dating, you have to take it day by day and really just, become friends with a person, make sure that woman is worthy of a friendship. Because a lot of the times we're thinking off in the future, hoping that, okay, once we have a family, once we have a house together, then I'm going to be happy. But right now I'm not that fulfilled, not that happy. So I need her in my life to make me whole and complete. But the reality of life is that your decision to be happy is in the now. You cannot be happy in the future. That is not going to happen. You can only choose to be happy in the now. And so you don't really need her to be happy. But if you do want companionship, you want a family, then yes, those reasonings make sense. By the way, if this is hitting home and you're ready to shift this and you really need that support, then you can definitely apply to work with me by filling out the short form that is below, or it's going to be somewhere on the screen. It'll help us see if and how I can actually help you. She's just not reading your text. She's also reading your vibe, your energy, how you lead, how you follow up, how you hold yourself. And so if you're going to be tiptoeing, trying to please or play it safe, she's not going to feel drawn in. She's going to feel unsure about you, about herself. And so you do not need to overcompensate or go cold. You just need to stay congruent, rooted, and secure. And so one of the ways to stay rooted, and this is something that I tell men all day long, and I just want you to ask yourself whenever you're in the dating phase or you get the text message, how do you feel inside? Do you feel like you need to reply straight away? And if you don't reply straight away, she's not going to want you anymore. And this is where the awareness needs to come in and really understanding your patterns, your thoughts. Why are you having these thoughts? Why do you need to send her a message straight away? And again, this is not even about playing games because again, I don't believe in any of that crap. And one of the things that I always say with texting is that whenever you get a message, don't, jump to send her a message. And again, this is not about playing a game and telling her, oh, I'm so much better than you and I'm so busy. It's really about asking yourself, well, is this an inconvenient time for me right now? If it is, don't send the message. I do this. I used to do this all the time, by the way. I would get messages and straight away I have to, reply back. But guess what? You don't. You do not need to reply straight away. And again, this is actually a good test because a lot of women that I've worked with in the past as well, you can see that if a woman is insecure, she has a bit of a toxic tendency in there, she will want you to send her a message straight away. And if she doesn't receive a message, that is when she's going to blow up your phone or she's going to think you're cheating on her. And so this starts slowly. A lot of men think, oh, I'm going to, ask her these questions. No. These are behaviors. These are questions that she's going to ask you. That is very, she's not going to directly ask you like, hey, what are you doing? Why did you message me? It'll be a very indirect way of asking you this. And then slowly it's going to end up being, full on. And then you're going to be like, how did I end up with this, with this woman? For those of you that don't know me, I am Nazina Narani. I'm a dating coach. And so I help nice men that struggle with boundaries, with confidence, with their self-worth. And so I'm able to then help them bridge that gap into really finding their truth, their authentic self, creating boundaries, not just with other people, but with themselves as well. Learning how to be their best version of themselves by themselves without needing somebody else, which then naturally attracts the right partner for them. A lot of the work that I do with my clients highly involves mindfulness, meditation, and really grounding that energy. Just working with my clients, I know that texting is a big conversation and it's usually where the trouble starts, to be very honest. Texting, social media, all these things that are tech-based, and is so ridiculous because it's like, there's so many misunderstandings that happen. Before we even get to, the tech, the messages and all this kind of stuff, I really want to make sure that you are working on your mindfulness, grounding that energy, you're really centered. And these are not things that, because I'm spiritual, I just want to, it sounds great to say it, but you can really see the difference between a man who is connected to himself, who is, has that presence in him, versus a man who is successful, he's confident, has all these great things, he's rich or whatever, but deep down inside, he's super insecure. And actually, I had a client of mine a while back who I work with, and he was the complete package. He was good looking. He had his own, business that he probably didn't even need to work at. He had a great family. He had everything. He still has everything. But when he would find women that he, would be dating, she would forget to message him for 2 or 3 hours. He would lose his freaking shit. And he would suddenly get back into his old habits, his old patterns. Oh, my ex did this, and so these women are going to do the same thing all over again. No, they're not. Every woman is so different. If somebody compared me to another woman. It's like we're completely different. Not to say that I'm better than other people or she's better than me, but it's just what I believe in, my values, my goals. They're so different. And so I'll be completely honest. Working with him was obviously, it was great. It was a pleasure. But what happened was, I think I'm going to probably make a video on this later down the line, but he was dating this woman, and then suddenly out of nowhere, because he couldn't handle the truth, all the feelings and emotions that was coming out of him, because that's what happens in dating. We think we're dating the woman, but we're dating ourselves. And we are seeing our, internal self coming out to play. We're mirroring and we're noticing our truth, which he couldn't handle. And so he said, okay, I did therapy. I've read these books, and I listen to podcasts, and I've done the work. But, I'm still going crazy when this woman doesn't message me within 2 hours. So, of course, now then there is a misalignment there. And again, not every human being on the planet is able to sit with themselves or seek the right amount, the right help to understand, to solve this. And suddenly out of nowhere, he's like, okay, but you know what? There's another woman here. She's a better fit for me. So I'm going to go over there. I'm going to make this work. And so again, this is where a lot of men stay. They stay in this chaos of like, okay, when I go, let's move to this country, then I'm going to find the woman. And when I just lose 10 pounds, then I'm going to find this beautiful woman and I'll have this beautiful life and I'll be happy finally. That is the delusion that most men, honestly, most human beings are living in, okay? I'm talking to men because oh my God, I almost dropped my cup. And what I've learned later down the line with my coaching business, to be quite honest with you men, because I like to be authentic and real. I'm trying to be as much as I can, is that I can't help everybody. And that is my biggest weakness as a human being, is I want to help everybody. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to, find their love, their life. But I know that is not the reality. That is impossible. This is why I've created an application for you to apply to work with me. And so I really want to make sure that you are genuinely interested and not just saying you need help to tick a bunch of boxes for your ego to feel good, but you're really genuinely, you're ready to do this work. If you want to stand out, you've got to keep your energy consistent. You got to say what you mean. You got to show your interest without needing a certain response that is going to meet your expectation. If it doesn't meet your expectation, then I'm going to leave. And so that is really what is going to make a woman feel, okay, I can trust this. I can trust him. Because again, you're really trying to build trust, even for yourself. And so don't just be magnetic on the date, but be magnetic when she is not around. And so if you're done replaying the cycle, because I know I'm tired of hearing about it, and you want to actually shift how you show up and lead in dating, the link is going to be down below or somewhere on the screen to fill out the intake form, and we're going to take it from there. I'm also booked this month, but I do review new applications weekly. And remember that you're not doing anything wrong, but you might just be missing what actually moves her. I'll see you guys in the next one.